Here's something that might genuinely change the way you think about money. When most people hear top 10% of American wealth, they picture someone who's completely untouchable financially. Someone with a second home, a financial advisor on speed dial, and a net worth so high it might as well be fictional. But the actual number that qualifies you for the top 10% of American net worth is probably not what you think it is. And once I tell you what it is, I'm also going to show you exactly how to get there, including a math-backed path that works even on an average American salary. So stay with me, because this one is worth your full attention. Before we get to the number, let's make sure we're measuring the right thing. A lot of people think about wealth in terms of income, how much someone earns per year. But income is actually a pretty misleading way to measure wealth, and here's why. There are people in this country earning $200,000 a year who are completely broke. Not exaggerating. According to data from PIMS and Lending Club, roughly a third of Americans earning over $200,000 a year still report living paycheck to paycheck. People taking home $10, $12, even $15,000 a month, and it's gone before the next one arrives. High income without the right habits doesn't build wealth. It just funds a more expensive version of broke. The right metric is net worth. Net worth is simple. You add up everything you own, subtract everything you owe, and whatever is left is your number. Your house, your investments, your savings accounts, those go on the asset side. Your mortgage balance, your car loan, your credit card debt, those come off. Whatever remains is your real financial picture. And that's the number that actually tells you where you stand. So what does the data say about the top 10%? The Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, which is the most comprehensive household wealth data we have, puts the top 10% net worth threshold at around $970,900, based on their most recent survey figures. Now, if we adjust that forward to 2026 to account for inflation over the past few years, that number lands at approximately $1.06 million. So as of 2026, crossing just over $1 million in net worth puts you ahead of 90% of Americans. That is the target. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because I think a lot of people hear top 10% and assume it's some astronomical, unachievable figure. But just over $1 million, while it is absolutely real money that takes real discipline to build, is not out of reach for a regular person with consistent habits and enough time. And we're going to prove that with actual math in a few minutes. But first, there are 3 mistakes that quietly knock most people out of the running before they even get close. And if you can avoid these, your path to that number gets dramatically easier. Mistake number 1 is lifestyle inflation. This one is dangerous precisely because it doesn't feel like a mistake while it's happening. Lifestyle inflation is what occurs when your income grows and your spending quietly grows right alongside it, or sometimes faster. You get a raise and you upgrade your apartment. You get a bonus and the new car suddenly feels justified. You land a better role and the dinners get more expensive, the vacations get longer, the wardrobe gets upgraded. None of those individual decisions feel reckless in the moment, but the cumulative effect of all of them over years is what keeps so many high earners with nothing to show for it. The psychology behind this is well documented. It's called hedonic adaptation. You acquire something new, you feel a genuine boost of satisfaction, and then your brain resets to its prior baseline and starts wanting the next thing. The novelty wears off faster than we expect every single time. So chasing that feeling by continuously spending more is a losing game for your net worth. The real engine of wealth is not what you earn. It's the gap between what you earn and what you spend. Protecting that gap as your income grows is one of the most valuable financial disciplines you can build. Mistake number 2 is the car payment trap. Now, this isn't about never driving a nice car. It's about understanding what these numbers actually look like right now, because they've gotten serious. The average monthly payment on a new car is sitting around $742 according to Edmunds. 1 in 6 people who financed a vehicle recently is paying over $1,000 a month in just the loan payment alone, before insurance, before maintenance, before fuel. And car insurance has climbed significantly in the last few years on top of that. Here's what makes this so damaging to net worth specifically. A car is a depreciating asset. The moment you drive it off the lot, it's worth less than what you paid. So you're not just paying for transportation, you're paying a premium, with interest, for something that is actively losing value the entire time you own it. That money flowing out every month is money that isn't compounding in an investment account. It's money that isn't closing the gap. The general guideline is to keep your total monthly car costs, loan payment, insurance, and maintenance combined, under about 15% of your take-home pay. A lot of people are well beyond that, and it's one of the quietest but most consistent reasons people stall on their way to real wealth. Mistake number 3 is sitting on the sidelines when it comes to investing. This one picks up followers every time the market gets choppy. Prices drop, volatility spikes, and the very reasonable sounding instinct kicks in. Just wait for things to settle down before putting money in. But here's the problem with that instinct. The market's biggest gains don't come during calm periods. They come in sharp, unpredictable bursts, and nobody can tell in advance when those days are coming. Fidelity published research showing the hypothetical growth of $10,000 invested in the S&P 500 index from 1980 through the end of 2022. If you stayed fully invested the entire time, that $10,000 grew to just over $1 million. Miss just the 5 best single days over that entire 42-year stretch, 5 days out of more than 15,000, and your result drops by 38%. Miss the 10 best days and you lose more than half your gains. Miss 30 of the best days and you've given up 83% of what you would have earned. The gains are concentrated in a handful of days that nobody can predict. Being out of the market means you miss them, and missing them is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make over a long time horizon. Sitting in cash isn't safety either. Inflation is constantly eroding the purchasing power of money that isn't growing. Staying invested, through volatility, through uncertainty, through the uncomfortable stretches, that is the path. All right, so now that we've cleared those 3 out of the way, let's build the actual roadmap to the top 10%. Step 1 is budgeting and tracking your net worth. You need to know your real number, assets minus liabilities. Write it down and revisit it every quarter at minimum. You also want a clear picture of what's coming in versus what's going out every month, and where it's going. Most people who struggle financially aren't making catastrophic decisions. They're just not paying close enough attention to the slow leak. Tracking closes that leak. Step 2 is eliminating high-interest debt. Any debt above 10% interest is a direct obstacle to building wealth, and it needs to go before anything else. If you're carrying credit card debt at 22 or 24%, you cannot outinvest that interest rate. Paying it off is the highest guaranteed return available to you right now. Get it gone. Step 3 is making sure your savings and investing rate is where it needs to be. The average personal savings rate in the United States right now is around 4.9%, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. That is a number that leads to working forever. To have a real shot at the top 10%, you want to be saving and investing at least 15%, and ideally closer to 20 to 25% of your income. That gap, that protected margin between earning and spending, is the engine of everything. And step 4 is to actually invest that money. Not leave it in a savings account. Not let it sit in cash. Put it to work in the market, consistently, and leave it there. Now here's the math, and every number here is verified. The median household income in the United States is approximately $85,000 a year. If you save and invest 20% of that income, which works out to $17,000 per year, and that money earns an average return of 8% annually invested in a broad market index fund, you cross $1 million in net worth in about 22 and a half years. That means if you're 40 years old and starting today, you're hitting that top 10% threshold right around age 63. If you're 35, you're there by 58. And if you're starting at 30, you're crossing that $1 million mark by your early 50s, well before most people are even thinking seriously about retirement. And here's the part that makes this even more compelling. It gets easier over time, not harder. The early years of investing feel slow because the compounding hasn't built real momentum yet. But as your base grows, the math starts doing the heavy lifting for you. At some point, your portfolio is generating returns in a single year that exceed what you're contributing manually. That's when it really starts to move. The discipline required early on is exactly what creates the freedom later. The top 10% of American net worth is not a club for people who got lucky or started with advantages. It's a club for people who understood that income alone isn't the goal, who protected the gap between earning and spending, who avoided the mistakes that drain wealth quietly over time, and who stayed invested long enough for compounding to do what compounding does. The number in 2026 is $1.06 million. The path is real, and it's available to anyone willing to play the long game. That's what we're here for, every single week, breaking down the stuff that actually moves the needle when it comes to building real wealth. If this video gave you something useful, drop a comment below and let me know where you're at on this journey. Whether you're just getting started or you're already well on your way, this community is all working toward the same thing together. We're building this alongside each other, and that's what makes it worth showing up for. See you in the next one.